can. We'll get through it together. And she made it all the way through the spring with for her grandson. And now he's moved on to 7th grade and is doing well. So we may be feeling like this. When someone asks you how distance learning is going, there's good days and there are going to be some days that aren't so good. And we all feel that way, teachers, students, and parents. We know that this is a difficult time and we're all learning together. So I'm hoping that some of the tips that I'll be sharing will be helpful for you and your child will feel more confident in the online environment and that you'll feel more confident helping them in that environment. So the title of this presentation is Supporting Your Child with Online Learning. And as Mr. Pine said, I'm the emotional support teacher at Slatington. In my 37 years, about half of that time I've been an emotional support teacher, but I've also been a learning support teacher, and I had a 4-year stint as a regular ed kindergarten teacher. So, and I get around the building a lot, so I have a good handle on what's going on around the building. So as far as helping your child, the first thing that is probably the most important is setting up a study space. And I know that we are into the second marking period already, but if your child is having problems, maybe this is part of it, that it's really important. From everything I did a lot of research about the best way to support kids through this. And one of the things that came out was having a designated space for your child to work. So that sends the message to your child that this is school time. Its best case would be that place would be only used for school. And I understand that that's not possible for a lot of families. If your child may not have their own bedroom, or if you're in an apartment, there might not be room other than the kitchen table for your child to work. But if possible, try to have a space for your child to work that they get the message when they sit down in the seat for the day that this is school time and I'm here to work. Making sure your child has all his or her materials and supplies for the day. Most of the work is being done through Chromebook, through Google Classroom, but some teachers want the kids to do their work on pencil and paper and bring that into school the next day they're in school if they're a hybrid student. So making sure they have everything there ready to go, and limiting distractions, including the TV and any additional devices. I know when my own kids were younger, their phones were a huge distraction. And they would, tell me they were doing their homework, but they were really scrolling through Instagram or something. So it might be a good idea to have the phone put away or on silent during school hours in your home. I do wanted to share with you that on a lot of these slides, I do have some links. So if you just click it, it will bring up, maybe slowly bring up the resource that's linked to it. So there we go. So it's just, if you want to do any additional reading on that subject, I do have resources linked all throughout the presentation. From what I was researching, the 3 keys that they were talking about for a good learning environment has lots of light. So if you have a window that you can put your child by, if not, make sure that there is a lamp, or that they're getting light, that they can see their Chromebooks. The kids are getting a lot of screen time, which is hard on their eyes. So it's important to have a good light source. Making sure that their workspace is comfortable with few distractions. And I have an asterisk next to the word comfortable, and I'll explain that in a minute, and has a reliable power source. Now, the Chromebooks do keep power for, quite a long time, but, the batteries do run down. So, just so that they have a place to plug in if they need to. And, just a reminder that the Chromebooks do need to be charged every night. We often have kids coming in who don't have their Chromebooks charged, and they have to kind of sit by the counter while the Chromebook is charging for the day. It is not recommended that a child use their bed for a learning space. It's okay if the only place that they can be that is distraction free is their bedroom, but we're not recommending that they are in their bed working. We don't want them falling asleep in the middle of their lessons. And believe it or not, that has actually happened at least 2 times that I am aware of, where the child fell asleep while working one-on-one with a teacher. Also, besides that the child can get very relaxed and fall asleep, kids that are doing things other than sleeping in their bed, playing video games or their schoolwork even, it can lead to trouble falling asleep at night. So that's just another reason that on their bed is not a good idea. And as a personal reflection, I have a student that last spring was doing a lot of work on her bed with her Chromebook on her lap, and it really interferes with the sound and it makes it difficult to communicate. It's much better if the Chromebook is on a hard, flat surface so that it doesn't, all the sounds of the rustling don't get picked up by the microphone. And again, as I said, the learning space, if possible, should be used only for learning, including attending class, doing homework, studying. Again, we know that that is not always possible, but that would be the best case scenario. All right, I just have some photos of some good setups for learning at home. Here are 3 siblings. A lot of families have several kids learning at the same time, and these kids all have their headphones on. If your child doesn't need to be listening to anything on the Chromebook, noise canceling headphones can be very helpful, and you can get them pretty cheap, around $9 on Amazon, if your child is distracted by noises in the background. So if your kids have to work together, it's doable. This girl over here, she has a good light source for her computer, and this girl looks like she's in her bedroom, but if you notice, the door is open so that the parent can monitor what the child is doing. All right, here's some example of maybe some not so good setups for learning at home. This boy looks a little too comfortable, and this boy looks like he's just had enough of online learning. And truthfully, that chair doesn't look very comfortable for a student to be working in all day. And this picture of a girl in her bed, that actually happened to me. We had to tell the child to get out of bed and sit up, because literally had the Chromebook in the bed and with the blankets all around. Now, she looked very cozy, but it wasn't the best situation for her to be learning. I work with a lot of kids that have attention deficit disorder, and so I've done a lot of investigating of alternative seating. I'm going to take a drink of water here for a sec. Excuse me. If you have a child that is struggling to sit through their class meetings, here's just some ideas of some things that you could use, and you might even have some of these things at home. This girl is sitting like on it. It's an exercise ball. If you have one of those to sit on, it just allows them to gently balance, and that helps a child self-regulate as they're working. This down here, the boy has a band on his chair, and we actually have some of these throughout our building for kids to use. And it can be just, it could be, now I'm forgetting the cords that you use, bungee cords is what I'm trying to say. This looks like it's actually a therapy cord on there, but just something that you can put around the legs of a chair that the child can bounce their feet on. That, believe it or not, will help them, can help the child focus. They're getting out their energy by doing that, and they're able to focus with their brain. Some kids do better standing. Now this boy right here, that's a fancy desk that costs probably at least $1,000, and that's not reasonable to expect that anyone would have one of those. But if you have a counter that a child could stand at while they're working, that might be, they might do best standing for part of their day, and that's okay, whatever way that they learn best. These 3 pictures over here were actually taken by a physical therapist who wrote the article that's linked below, and these are her 3 children. And the first one is a boy on a very hard wooden chair with his laptop or Chromebook in front of him. And some simple modifications that she made. This, I think there might be, the article said that there was a box here for their feet. So the child's feet, if possible, should be able to touch the floor. So if not, you can put a box under there to, it just makes them more comfortable. Also, just a padding was added to the chair. And also this child has a wireless keyboard and a wireless mouse. And that might not be something that your family would be able to invest in right now, but I know that for me, it's made a lot of difference. I am on a lot of Zoom meetings, and I was getting a lot of neck and back pain from leaning over my laptop. So I found a combination keyboard and mouse at BJ's really cheap, and it really has helped with that. So if your child is complaining about pain and that's something that would be doable for your family, it might be something to look at. And then the sister is using the same wireless mouse and keyboard, but she's standing. So there may be times of the day where, you know, your child would do better standing, or maybe when they're not having to type so much. But just some ideas of alternate ways that your child can be still working, but using some tools to help them self-regulate as they're working. So, all right, I chose this meme for a couple reasons. Thanksgiving is coming in, and it's my family tradition to always put Elf in the DVD player. No one ever watches it, but we put it on anyway as the traditional kickoff to the holiday season. But we can stop here and see if there are any questions, Mr. Pine, about anything as far as like setting up a learning environment for your student.
So I don't have any questions about that, and I do have a question, but I'm going to hold off on it and just ask that the individual giving the question, if I do not ask the right follow-up question when you get to that part, to ask any clarifying questions, because I do know that that's coming in the presentation.
Okay. The next section is on creating a schedule for your child. And maintaining a routine by having your child get up each morning as if they were going to school is really important. I think sometimes the kids get the feeling that, especially like the hybrid kids, when they're not in school every day, that the days that they're home, it's a little bit different. They can sleep late, and it gets them out of the routine. So maintaining that routine is really important. And then, when we go back, they'll be ready to go back, and it won't be such a hard transition back. Into your schedule, make sure that you build in time for academics, break, lunch, and free time. And then make sure that you have your child's class meeting times on his or her schedule. The kids can work without going to their class meetings, but there's a lot of instruction going on in those meetings, so it's really important that they get to them if they can. Now, this is just an example of a schedule that I made. It's a version of a schedule I made for one of my students, just where they had to be every day. Wednesday, of course, is different for all kids, so this child is a virtual student, so they do have a special on Wednesday. And if on the schedule, you can put, if they have any related services like speech or OT, those can go on the schedule as well. Now, what I've done is I've made templates for each grade that you can access, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. It will prompt you to make a copy, so you can edit it specific to your child, and you won't be messing anybody else's slide up. So let me just click on 3rd grade. It prompts you to make a copy. And it will slowly open for us. And then I don't have any teachers listed here because of course that would be something that you would put in. There are slight changes for third grade. Some kids have science and social studies first, some have WIN first, but it's a general schedule. And you can, this is a Google Doc, so you can type right in it and it will save all your changes. So there's a template for every grade. And I know that it has helped some of my students get where they need to be when they need to be there. So again, these are all active links over here. All right, some important daily routines. I think this is a big one because when kids have been sharing their screens with me and I see how many emails they have, it makes me anxious because if I have more than 10 in my inbox, I have to do something with it. But if they would check their emails at the beginning of each day and then a couple times during the day. Help your kids delete old emails. Now, Google Classroom, every time an assignment is assigned, the kids get an email about it. If they're really good about going into Google Classroom, they don't really need all those emails, and there is a way to turn that off. So that might be something you might want to do so that your child is not overwhelmed. I've seen kids trying to help them and they're scrolling through 50 or more unopened emails. Make sure that your student is going to each teacher's Google Classroom for daily assignments and that they're completing all assignments by 9 o'clock. Now, that being said, there is a caveat that if your child can't get their assignments done by 9, maybe there's a family emergency or something like that, to email the teacher and let them know. We understand that this stuff happens. This is, there's a lot going on in the world right now. And, the goal is by 9 o'clock. I know a lot of the teachers are trying to have the kids complete their work by the time they leave the class meeting for the day. So if anybody at the end of this section has any questions about the email or the Google Classroom, I can try to address them, or Mr. Pine can as well. The question came up, well, what if you can't directly supervise your child's online learning? And I know that I have a student whose dad works a later shift, so he sleeps part of the day and he's not always there to help this boy. They've set some things in place that have helped him. He's always at his meetings and doing what he needs to do. So just some suggestions is to have their schedule displayed or opening a tab in their Chromebook. I'm sorry for stopping for a drink there. If you choose to open one of those and make your own schedule, you can have it open in a tab on your child's Chromebook and they just refer to it throughout the day. If you have a printer at home and you want to print it and stick it up on the fridge or somewhere where the child can see it, that's a good idea too. Making sure your child has tabs opened or pinned or bookmarked. Now, Mr. Pine taught me how to pin things, and it's been a game changer for me. So I do have a short little video about how to pin things. I think it's less than 2 minutes, and everybody should be able to hear it because I did turn on that setting. So let's cross our fingers at it.
Hi everyone, Megan Swope here from 2 Minute Tech. Today I want to show you a great trick you can use in Google Chrome called pinning tabs. This is one of my favorite tricks to use as it allows you to prevent yourself from accidentally closing a browser tab in Google Chrome. Let's take a look. It's very common for us to have certain Chrome tabs that we just need to open all day, every day. For those particular Chrome tabs, you don't want to run the risk of accidentally closing them while you're in the middle of something. This is where pinning the tab feature comes in. To pin a tab, you simply come to any Chrome tab, right-click, and select Pin. And you notice what that does is it makes it real tiny over here on the, it retains the favicon so you can still see what it is. And you can pin any number of tabs. Once the tabs are pinned, you can rearrange the order of those tabs if you'd like. if you have a large number of tabs that you would like to pin at once, there's also a great Chrome extension called Pin All Tabs. I will put the link to that in the description box. It looks like this little push pin, and you notice when I click that, it pins all of the tabs that I have open. At any given moment, if I want to unpin a tab, I simply do this in reverse. I right click, I select unpin, and now I could close that tab if I desire. So again, this is one of the things I use most often. It is one of the first things I do when I log in each morning is to pin the tabs that I know I will need for the day. As always, if you have any questions.
Okay, so I hope that was a helpful video. Like I said, Mr. Pine showed me how to do it, and I have certain things pinned that I can just go to. And even if you close that down, when you open your browser again, they pop up usually right away. Another good tip is if your child has a phone, or you can let them have your phone nearby, is to set alarms on the phone for each period that they need to be for a meeting that they need to be to. The student I was talking about, whose dad needs to sleep for part of the day, he will tell me, Mrs. Beil, my alarm went off, I need to go. And he will, go to the next class. And this is a fourth grader who is able to do this with just having that structure in place. If students are not able to attend meetings live, so we understand that there's kids at daycare, that you might not be able to help them until you get home from work at night. They should watch the taped instruction. After Thanksgiving, all teachers are going to be live streaming and recording those live streams. Some teachers have already started doing that, but I would suspect that they've probably notified you of that if they're doing that. But so we understand that the child might not be able to attend that meeting at 9:30 in the morning, but please make sure that they do watch the tape instruction later in the day. All right, next one in the schedule, something that's really important and that I talk about a lot when I do professional development with the staff is building in brain breaks. Kids of elementary age really should be having a brain break about every 20 minutes. The point of these breaks is to reduce stress and frustration, and it helps actually increase a child's attention and productivity. And these activities could either be active or relaxing, depending on what your child needs. When I do my groups with my students, I call them alerting or calming activities. Depending on what they need. If they're really kind of hyper and they can't sit still, then you would do some calming activities. If they're, can't keep their head off the table and are having trouble focusing, then you would do some alerting activities. And like I said, these breaks should be about every 15 to 20 minutes. Now, I understand that the teacher may still be teaching, but it's okay for the kids to say, hey, Mrs. So-and-so, I'm having trouble focusing. I need to take a quick brain break. A lot of the teachers are giving them anyway, but in case the child needs one, it's always awesome when a child can advocate for what they need. Some examples of alerting strategies, believe it or not, the one that works the best with my students is just some cold water. They think it's magic that it makes them more alert. It also hydrates their brain, or just doing a couple laps around my classroom to get the blood flowing. Some calming strategies are maybe taking some deep breaths or doing some tightening and releasing of their muscles, or wall push-ups, which is exactly what it sounds like. You put your hands on the wall and you're doing a push-up. Things that would be more of a calming strategy. I do have a link below as to some more ideas for brain breaks. And I have also linked, when I originally shared this with Mr. Pine, this is a live link, and I was trying to move on in the slides and every one of these kept playing. But these are, this was put together by a special ed teacher in a Facebook group I'm part of, and it's a lot of different songs. They're they're appropriate from like Peter's level kids to the kids at Slatington. And I do have, if you click the link, it will you can make a copy. There's actually 2 pages of these. Let's see. Yeah, there's a second page. And you know, some of them are Sesame Street all the way up to some like current day pop tunes. So if you would like that to make a copy, it's actually a slide presentation that you can load on your child's Chromebook. And then if they need a break, they can just put a song on. The teacher who made these actually called them good morning songs because he found it really got the kids ready for the day by starting with one of these songs. And believe it or not, the older kids like Sesame Street because I use some of those videos in my social skills lessons and the kids love them. So, all right. Next one, as I had mentioned earlier, one of the things that works best when my kids are feeling low energy is just, I always keep the small bottles of water in my fridge in my classroom. And sometimes that's all it takes. Just have some water to hydrate their brain, and good hydration. It helps improve focus, the ability to memorize and recall information. So from there, one of my favorite movies, if anyone has any questions at this point. Mr. Pine?
Yeah, so thanks for the shout out on the pinning the tabs. I recently, and I'll have to show you this, discovered setting up folders along the bookmark bar so that if you do accidentally close some essential tabs that you use frequently, you can kind of quickly reopen those. So I'll have to show you that. It sort of expands that ability. So we did have a question that I think fits a little bit here and elsewhere, but so not having challenges with limiting distractions, but struggling with keeping a child accountable for checking emails, managing meetings throughout the day and things like that. I know you talked about the schedule earlier. Do you have anything at this point in terms of how to sort of set up, I guess, a sense of responsibility and accountability?
For that, I don't have it in this presentation, and I apologize for not thinking of that. I would do a checklist. Like first thing in the morning, you know, and you could do it, you could put it in one of those plastic sheet covers that they could wipe off each day. First thing in the morning, check email, check, I did that. And you could have all their meetings on that. You know, that might be more, they might be more successful with that than a schedule, or have their schedule and a checklist both in a plastic, you know, cover, one on each, you know, in the same one facing opposite directions, that they could, with a dry erase or, you know, even a crayon or something, just mark off what they did, all the steps for the day, and that they can show you, yes, I went through this list.
Great. I mean, and so Ms. Beil, if I'm understanding, would a parent want to set up sort of intermittent periods throughout the day where they would have the child check in with that checklist and just kind of like keep tabs on that?
I would say if it's possible. I know we have some parents that, you know, are working or can't do that, but yeah, I would maybe even after each period, because, you know, the language arts block at Slatington at least is 90 minutes long, same with math. So maybe after each period, did you do this, this, and this? Things like checking the email and everything that might just fit into the first period, you know, to do that. For younger kids, you could even do a picture checklist. So, you know, if anybody needs help with that, I'd be glad to, you know, you can reach out to me and I'd be glad to help you with that. I've used checklists with some of my kids that have, we call them executive functioning issues, where they're, you know, trouble staying organized, and you just, you know, just a picture, you know, what do I have to do first? What do I have to do next? Even the kids when they're like going to school, what do you need? We have kids that are still forgetting their Chromebooks, you know, that could be on a checklist for them every day.
Great, thanks so much. I love that. I mean, I know that checklists actually have been used even to save lives in hospitals and, you know, avoid plane crashes. Checklists are, it's not just for kids, for everyone. I do want to also say that a video that I am looking to push out, because it's come up, and it came up for me recently, is about those email notifications in the Google Classroom. As someone who is in, you know, 40 plus Google Classrooms, if I did not figure out how to shut those off, I probably would have lost my mind. So I am looking to put out a video that is going to walk through how to shut those notifications off. And then you can make the decision as a family as to what you want to shut off so that your kid isn't inundated with, 20, 30 emails every time something updates in the classroom. So, so I have this one. I have access to the Google Classroom for my 2nd and 4th grade on my phone. I can check on all their assignments at any time of day and see what has been completed and what hasn't. If you have a Google account, it's really easy to add your child's account to your device. Yeah, no, so I appreciate that. Yeah, so there are workarounds for that. And again, we're continuing to field those sorts of concerns. So if you have something that you're looking to figure out, we very much want to get those sort of walk through videos and walk through presentations out there to you. So that way we can kind of, make that happen fast.
The one thing with Google Classroom is that kids, now not just in Northern Lehigh, across the country it's happening, turning in assignments where they did no work. So I know that the teacher's Google Classroom account has a drive that you can check. That would be one place you could check to see if your child actually did their work. In the Wonders program, they're doing their work totally online. They have to save and submit it, and they can go back in and check and show you that they did their work. So if you have a child that says they did their work but really didn't do it, I had one of those. As a parent, I had one of those. That's a good way to check it. So.
All right, so I have 2 more. One sort of fits in the last one, and I think I may have missed it as I was scrolling through here. So I'm going to do that one first. So for parents who have multiple children, different grades, they're participating in different things, different times of day, and things like that. Especially as we move towards streaming, working through spaces. I know you showed the headphones, and that's certainly a thing to get in place. Do you have any suggestions for how to sort of manage this across multiple children? I know that's a hard one.
It's a hard one. I think it depends. I think it depends on, truthfully, how well your children get along with each other and if they can work side by side, and what responsibilities you have during the day. If you can have them all at the kitchen table at maybe at different ends or whatever with their headphones, that's probably the most workable. If you have older kids who are independent, they could be working in their bedroom or somewhere else so you can focus on a child who might need some more support, a younger child who's not quite a proficient reader yet or something like that. So it depends on those personality factors. There's kids that I have that I can't put together in the same group because they just don't get along. So it kind of depends on that and how.
Yeah, and that's not even siblings. And having 2 daughters, having been a sibling, that's a whole different game. Yeah, and if that's an individual concern, I would definitely recommend calling the office or contacting a guidance counselor, and we would work through, just kind of some ideas. And that's all this is. Best practices applied in different situations, good ideas. Oh, wait, sorry, go ahead.
One thing that did come up was that if you have several children that are working at home, to stagger them. I don't know how feasible that is when kids have to be at meetings all day long, but maybe if one child is supposed to be at a special and they don't really have a place to be, that could be their break time while the other child is working. So you could look at their schedules and try to stagger them that way.
Great. So I want to mention an idea that followed a question that came. One of the parents had said they purchased trifold boards. I think they're talking like the ones you see at a science fair, and had their children decorate them in order to create their own space, which I think kind of goes towards the question that's being asked, but maybe a little bit more intensive. So any tips for motivating a child that just does not want to start, right from the get-go, has, no context for this being school-like because it's home, to kind of, I guess, best create that sort of that switch that, I'm going into school time now to get started.
Well, the next section is the motivation and goal setting and reward. So we'll talk a little bit about that, but I love the idea of the trifold. If the child decorates it themselves, and maybe that's a morning routine. Everybody puts up their office for the day, and that might get them into the, switching from, at home mode to at school mode. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, and I'm going to mention this one now, but I do also think the motivation place might be an area where you could kind of insert some commentary on this. So it's from a parent who's concerned about helicoptering and sort of having their child lose independence because they're sort of feeling responsible for inserting so much. And just kind of any ideas about how finding a balance. I think very much what you're about to talk about in terms of motivation and those types of structures is really about building that confidence, right? And building that. So I'm just mentioning it now, and maybe you can kind of, think about that as we go through.
Right. Well, certainly the goal is that for kids to be working as independently as possible. And, I know some of us feel the need to be on top of our kids more than others, and that's fine. But you might want to set a timer for yourself. Every 5 minutes, check up on them. If they're doing fine, spread that to 10 minutes and try to increase the time before you check in on them. If a child has is constantly asking you for help, tell them to see if you can figure it out yourself. Read the directions or watch the teacher's video. And if you still can't figure it out, come back to me then. And trying to build that independence. So I think I will move on to the next section if we're ready.
Thank you.
Motivation, goal setting, and rewards. Quick little video. It does review some of the things that we already talked about, but it has a couple other things as well. It's a very short, 1.5 minutes.
Here are 6 tips to help parents keep their kids motivated during online learning. Number 1, establish a structure and routine. Sticking to a schedule provides the stability kids need to keep plugging away. Plus, it minimizes their instincts to go rogue. When expectations are set, it's more likely they'll be met. Number 2, praise effort. Now, more than ever, taking notice of and commenting positively on how your kid is growing and progressing can really give them forward momentum. Number 3, break up the day. If you have some control over when kids do their schoolwork, mix things up a little. Consider letting them have a slower paced morning and then tackling assignments after lunch. Number 4, check in regularly. Don't make assumptions about how things are going with your kid. Instead, see how they're holding up, ask how they feel, and figure out what you can do to support them. Number 5, be willing to experiment. If a kid is struggling with reading, try an audiobook. If math is too boring, do the problems on a whiteboard or outside using sidewalk chalk. A change of scenery can do wonders for a kid's motivation. And number 6, adjust expectations. If we've learned anything during this crisis, it's to expect the unexpected. Kids will need time to adjust to the new learning environment. So remember to empathize, celebrate the little victories, and start tomorrow with fresh eyes. For more advice and top picks,
I have found this YouTube channel, the commonsense.org, has a lot of helpful videos to help parents deal with online learning. So I wasn't going to put all of them in here, obviously, but it's a good source for anyone who's interested in it, looking further. The first thing that I want to talk about is goal setting, and there is an article linked below that talks about both goal setting and rewards. And this setting goals gives the student the opportunity to kind of take control over their own learning. And it's good to set goals that are, I have a spelling typo there, sorry, short-term, relevant, and independent, and that kids can recognize through their own work, the fruits of their labor, that they're accomplishing these things. Some of the things that they mentioned was to start early. It's not too early in kindergarten for your child to have goals. Do it often. Have short-term goals. Make it visual. It could be some kind of a chart. make it relevant to what they're learning and relevant for their grade level, and then have a center student choice. So goals could be daily, weekly, monthly, or by marking period. It could be to improve their grades or learn a new skill. For example, if they're in third grade, their goal might be to master the ×3 facts. And then once they do that, they can move on, to another goal. Maybe it could be reading for 20 minutes a day, attending all their virtual meetings. It doesn't have to be like grade related, but it's good that the child picks their own goal that they want to work with. Now, in setting goals, they can be tied to a reward, but they don't have to be. And it kind of depends on your child. Some kids are motivated intrinsically by their own success, and others not so much. So it kind of takes knowing your child. I have included just 2 examples of how you could write out a goal for your child. We call them SMART goals. They're specific, measurable, what they have to do to achieve it, and make it realistic and timely. So probably, at this point, keep the goals to maybe a week or a month. I wouldn't go much further than that right now. And then this one is maybe for a younger child. They could even draw what their goal is. And then they adjust at the end of the time period. Did they reach their goal or not reach their goal? So goals can be very motivating for kids, like I said, to take ownership of their own learning. And that brings us to the question to reward or not reward. There are all kinds of rewards. Praise is a type of positive reinforcement. And in the earlier video, it mentioned praising effort. It's not necessary that your child, has to get straight A's, but praising the effort or praising them working independently. I do have an article linked below, and I have some examples of what's in there. That's quite an improvement. So you're praising their effort. You solve that problem. One more time and you'll get it. So we're not, saying good job, and we're praising their effort and their persistence, and they're sticking with it. And even with kids who maybe are having some difficulty with this whole situation emotionally, like, you express yourself really well. I always tell my kids, like, they're allowed to feel however they feel. And I know some of our kids are having really strong feelings about all of this, and being able to express that should be encouraged. Now, with that, it goes, we're going to behave appropriately in our expression of that, but giving the opportunity to talk is important. So praising all that effort, expressing themselves appropriately, working independently. The next one, a token economy. I have linked an article about that one. Bulldog bucks are an example of a token economy. We're not doing Bulldog bucks now because of COVID, and we are looking, and Mr. Pine, correct me if I'm wrong, that we're looking to use the dojo points as our token economy. We're just trying to figure out, because especially with grade levels that switch classes, how to make it manageable.
No, you're correct. Actually, next Wednesday, 1 week from today, as part of our professional development day, that's something that one of our teachers who has kind of figured this out is going to be presenting to the staff. Yes.
Rewards can be tangible. It could be an access to a preferred activity or a privilege. Keep rewards small and focus on things you are willing to give repeatedly. Like, a very expensive video game is probably not a good short-term reward, because you won't be able to keep up with that. Use rewards to encourage students to do non-preferred tasks. A lot of my students don't like to do writing activities, so that's when we are rewarding them more frequently. Make sure your child knows what specific behaviors is being rewarded. Again, focus on the effort that they're putting in. And occasionally give surprise rewards, and that if giving surprise rewards intermittently when the kids don't expect it increases the chance that that behavior will persist. So I have some examples. This is an example. It's actually a token economy that we're currently using with a student in 4th grade. And it's just basically a chart with 100 boxes on it. And this was individualized to their interest, which is Minecraft. I've done these, all kinds of kids' interests, race cars, mermaids, whatever the child likes. And then they get rewarded at the end when they color in 10 of them. So, and then if they're working for something that's a little more high priced, then they might have to have, more rows colored. And usually it's 10, and it might be something as simple as, iPad time, or, it could be just time reading a book with mom or dad or something like that. It doesn't have to be anything that costs money. For a token economy, you can use physical tokens such as coins, poker chips, marbles, or a chart like this one. And it's a good idea to create a reward menu so that your child knows what he or she is working for. Here, this one I just happened to find last night. It was free. So it won't work in presentation mode, but I'm going to see if I can get it to work on here. You can make a copy of this, and it could be something that you could have up in the background on a tab in your child's Chromebook. But you can actually move the move the marbles over. And I don't know how many there are total, but I think there's a lot. So they could type their goal in here. Maybe it's to complete all their work for the day, and then they can move the marbles, and then you can actually go back and reset it. So that's a virtual token economy. Some kids like the sound of tokens in a jar. It just, whatever your kid would prefer. Here are some examples of reward menus. The first one are things that are more doable at home. Going on a bike ride as a family, choosing the dinner menu, things like that. This one on the other side is school-based, but there's a lot of things that actually you could do at home. And these are priced. This is somebody who used a ticket system, which I've done in the past. And the key is, what does your child want to work for the most? And that's what you make the most expensive. How much do you want it? And that would be the most expensive. Okay. All right, I have this cute little hamster. Just to acknowledge that this time is really stressful for all of us, and it's affecting everyone's mental health in one way or another. We're all handling it differently. Personally, I've been self-medicating with Ben & Jerry's ice cream, so I don't know if that's the best choice, but that's how I've been dealing with it. And I wanted to share a tool with you that you can use as adults, you can have your kids use, and let me show you what I have next, so I can it might make a little bit more sense here. We've been making calm down kits. It was kind of my mission. Mr. Pine can attest to this, to get a calm down kit in every classroom in the building. And we're pretty much there. I have a few. Our laminator went out for a little while, so I have a few I have to distribute. But the kids could use these. Regular ed kids, special ed kids, teachers, if they needed them, could use the calm down kits just to help self-regulate. A lot of different sensory things in there. Well, we had kids across the building using them and successfully using them and reducing the number of behaviors that we were having to deal with. But with COVID, we still have them in the classroom, but we're really only encouraging the neediest kids to use them, because we'd have to clean them quite frequently. So as a remedy to that, I created a virtual calming room. And I know Mr. Pine has put this in some of his newsletters, but I don't know if everyone's aware of it. I know there was a staff person that wasn't aware that we had one. It's on the Slatington Elementary homepage under featured links. So this link takes you there, and it has different sections to it. And one that your child might be able to use to help them focus is the calming music and sounds. Some of these videos are hours long, like this one's 3 hours long. And some kids just need that kind of white noise in the background to help them focus. So I just wanted to share that as a tool that might be helpful. There's calming music. I have mindfulness activities, yoga, breathing. If your child is really getting wiggly in their seat, they could stop and do one of these as a brain break. Some visual relaxation. I think my favorite is the glitter tunnel, but there's a 12-hour relaxing fireplace on there. And then there's the last section is called Get Creative. And it has like this one called Music Lab. You can actually make your own music. The Zen Rock Garden, it's literally a virtual Zen garden that you can pull a rake through the sand and make designs. So a lot of calming things that the kids could use at school if they need a break, definitely at home. And like I said, I think that the calming music, if your child is having trouble self-regulating at home, that might be something just to have on in the background to help them focus. So again, that's on the Slatington homepage under featured links. And then I do have some additional resources, both for students and for parents listed here, that you can gladly click on those links and investigate a little further. Some of them are videos and some of them are articles. And at that point, if anyone has any further questions, Mr. Pine?
So I only have one more, but I did want to just kind of acknowledge, I know a lot of this is, I mean, Ms. Beil gave an amazing 1-hour presentation. A lot of this does take a lot of, time, and it's slow progress at times and things like that, but it really does all work. I mean, I can honestly say that I never go to Ms. Beil with a problem and, am not able to have the conversation where, it's good, effective practices that are behind, the problem-solving process. So I really do want to, just kind of say that even if it doesn't seem like it works immediately, these are good things to do. So the question that I actually had last, and I figured that delay might allow anyone else who wants to put one in, is a question about whether or not we'd be able to send out a list of what is in the kits, the Calm Down Quick kits.
Absolutely. I have photos that I've taken of them. Would you want actual like links? Some of the stuff we got on Amazon.
So yeah, what I'm thinking is, so I'm hoping before I go to bed tonight that I will at least have the full format of that web page set up where we'll be able to put some of these things up, this video and some other things. Maybe we could create a space in there where I could list some of the items or link them if you'd be able to get together sort of your top recommendations.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The only thing I would say to the parents as we put these together, I mean, and you may be in that boat right now where you don't know what's going to work for your child. We really put together sort of a wide span of things. I will tell you, as someone who personally benefits from them and plays with some of these things to kind of, just fidget at times, your child will gravitate towards certain things. They will find things, a handful of tools that are really effective for them. We build a kit so that it's sort of more broadly, I guess, accessible to a wide variety of kids. So yeah, absolutely. Anything that we put up, I mean, it'll be on the Slatington page. I mean, I can absolutely share it over to any parents who are at Peters. But yeah, the page that I'm working on, it'll just generally be available on the Slatington page. It's a place where we're starting to try and house some of these things.
I wanted to just follow up on something you said. If you're dealing with some more behavioral issues and you're looking to implement some kind of a token economy, the rule in behavior management is the behavior often gets worse before it gets better. Your child will try to determine where your boundaries are, let's say, put it that way. They may push you to see if you move your boundaries. And it's really important to set boundaries, make it clear, and to keep those boundaries. And it's not always easy. I work with kids that are good negotiators, and I'm sure some of you have children like that. And it's really important not to move that line in the sand.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So I'm not seeing any other questions come up. I know we had sort of planned this from 6 to 7, so it seems to have worked out quite perfectly. At this time, I really do want to again thank Mrs. Beil for putting this together and really trying to figure out what might be some jumping off points based on some of the issues that we've seen come up. So if you do have any further questions, I mean, I do still encourage you to reach out to the office, to the principals, the guidance counselor. And, we sort of have this, all of these wonderful people as resources behind us, like this Beil that, we can turn to and hopefully find, not always the immediate answer, sometimes just a potential solution and something that we can try. And most times we can find something after enough work.
I am going to put the link in the chat if I can for this presentation. It looks like he's only going to send it to you, Mr. Pine, so you might need to share it out. And I just need to change the end of this to.
I'll send it out, and in addition to the video, I will too put up the actual presentation with this link. So
did the link come through?
It came through to me and I just sent it to everyone.
Okay, awesome. And if parents, thank you so much for coming. If anyone has any specific questions, feel free to reach out to me. My email address is sbeil, B-E-I-L, @nlsd.org. And I have a lot of resources that I've collected in 37 years. So I'd be glad to share those with anyone who would like those.